After our $1 million debt with the health, and we had no safety net for us, we immediately had to turn to the credit card, and those expenses hurt us.
Yep.
I mean, if we would continue the route that we were on before I got the second job, I think it would have taken us 106 years to pay off that credit card debt. If you get nothing else out of this video, just try to, hopefully you'll get this, get out of credit card debt. Now, the traditional financial planning will teach you should have like 12 months saved up. How are we doing that? How are we saving up for possible evils that are coming down? Just briefly. If you fail to plan, you plan to fail. And the first step of planning is to set goals. Here are 6 powerful money goals for 2021. Number 1, be a blessing to society and not a burden. Number 2, protect your family. Number 3, invest in your family. Number 4, pay off your credit card. Number 5, establish an emergency savings fund. And number 6, invest in yourself. Are you ready now?
I'm very ready.
Okay, let's get into it. Okay, number 1, be a blessing to society and not a burden. What am I talking about? Get away from welfare. Stay away from welfare. If we expect society to pay our bills, we're not a blessing to society, but actually a burden. The Bible says, let every man bear his own burden. One of the great commandments of the Bible is to love your neighbor as yourself. And the golden rule is just do unto others as you would have them do unto you. If we expect others to pay our bills and we're not willing to pay their bills, we're not doing unto others as we would have them do unto you. We're not loving our neighbors as we are ourselves. And we're definitely not bearing our own burdens. An extreme example of this is, let's say you're a typical homeless person standing on the side of the road, holding up a sign, hoping for a handout or some extra food. Technically, that person is not a blessing to society, but a burden. Same thing with welfare. Let's take healthcare, for example. If we expect others to pay our healthcare bills, we're a burden to society. We're not a blessing. When I worked in the healthcare field, I found that a lot of people who actually received Medicaid or Access or any other forms of welfare for the medical bills typically were a little short-sighted in that they failed to plan. They failed to plan that there might be future bills coming down, and they either did not store up money to save for those bills, or they just flat out didn't buy any insurance to help cap those expenses. And when something harsh hit their lives, they were overwhelmed, and they had to turn to welfare to help bail them out. My wife and I, we were kind of guilty of the same thing. Our first pregnancy was complicated. It had about $1 million worth of complications. And since I had a low-paying job, my employer did not offer healthcare insurance, and I didn't have the foresight to find my own healthcare insurance. When we got hit with that pregnancy, we were overwhelmed. And we had to turn to welfare, which is basically taxpayers' money, to kind of bail us out. And even worse is a lot of healthcare welfare, Access and Medicaid, they only pay a few cents on the dollar. So those people who are taking care of us, those providers, they lost money on us. So not only were we a burden to society, but we were kind of a burden to those doctors in those hospitals and so forth. And now there's nothing inherently wrong with welfare. The law of Christ is to bear one another's burdens. But my wife's desire and my desire is not to be a burden on society, but to actually be a blessing. Okay. Now, honey, what are some disadvantages to being on welfare or to rely on society for your bills?
It can put the country in debt. You guys, I don't know if you know about America. When America comes up with a budget, there's a budget that comes for welfare people. Don't get me wrong, don't get us wrong. We're not saying that if you are disabled and you cannot afford to be able to ask for welfare, you should not. We're not talking about people that cannot. A lot of times here, especially in America, is people that are able to do it, that are able to stand up and work. And not only that, you can use your human capital, your mind. You can come up with a business. You can come up with a YouTube channel, something like that. You can come up with something. So when you're in welfare, it costs the country a lot of money, and the country of America right now, it owes a lot. And if we could reduce the amount of welfare, maybe it will help in the country's economy and stuff. So it's a big burden to the country, a big one actually, especially here in America.
Yeah. And another thing that came to my mind, especially when we were going through this, is if you have the mindset that you're not going to pay your medical bills, and you have to rely on other people to do that, a lot of people look down on that. And if you think you have an expertise in another field, let's say religion, or let's say politics, people might not be willing to listen to that just because they don't respect your mindset that you're on welfare, or that you're relying on them to buy your bills. And you know, whether you like it or not, society kind of has a mentality of, show me thy faith without thy works, and I will show you my faith by my words. So if they look down on one, a particular aspect of you, they're not being willing to listen to you on other aspects of your life. So you can have a zero testimony when you are burdened on society. And this is why a lot of parents don't listen to their kids, because they've been paying their bills all their lives. And you know, if you're an adult and your parents are still paying your bills, they're probably not going to listen to you as an adult either. So a great goal for 2021 would be to be a blessing to society and not a burden. Let's go to number 2. Number 2 is to protect your family. A great fundamental question, or a great basic question to ask yourself is, if I die today, would my family be better off financially or worse off financially? Now, Nail, have you noticed in the Phoenix metro area, there's a lot of car washes? If you drive around Phoenix, there's a lot of fundraising car washes. And I've noticed that those are 2 types. First of all, a lot of those car wash fundraisers are used to help fund high school activities, band, speech and debate, sports, and so forth. But sadly, a lot of other fundraising car washes are to help pay for funeral expenses. If you die today and your loved ones have to wash cars for the next few weekends to pay off your funeral expenses, they are definitely not in a better situation because of your death as before. And even in the Bible, the book of Acts, chapter 6, the early church, the widows were being neglected of their ministration. It seemed that a lot of people in the early church, a lot of widows had to go to the church to be fed. And a lot of them were being denied. Well, if you die today and your loved ones have to go to the church just to get food, they're not in a better situation financially as when you're alive, and especially if they're being neglected of that food as well. So a great fundamental goal would be to protect your family. Now, there's a lot of different ways to protect your family, a lot of different ways to take care of them if you pass on. But I think a very easy one is life insurance. I was surprised just how affordable life insurance can be, especially if you can pass a physical. And I got good news for you now. If I die today, you're definitely going to be better off financially tomorrow if my insurance does what it's supposed to do. So take heart to that.
Great news.
Okay, number 3. And it kind of tags on to number 2. While you're still alive, you should be investing in your family. The Bible says that a good man leaveth an inheritance to his children's children. A good man leaveth an inheritance to his children's children. We live in a day and age where a lot of people don't leave anything for their kids, let alone their children's children. But the Bible says a good man leaveth an inheritance to his children's children. We should invest in our family. Off the top of my head, I could think of 2 good examples. One day in college, I went to see my finance professor. I had a question for him, so I went to his office. Now, this guy was like a rock star in the finance field. He was considered one of the best financial minds. He was a young guy, and he had, I think, a real prestigious position with the Federal Reserve Board. So I went to his office, asked him the question. He answered my question. Then afterwards, he proudly said that he just paid off his newborn son's 4-year college education with $2,000. So his son was just born, I think, earlier that week, and he said he did this for all his kids. When his child was born, he would invest in that child, and this guy knew the bond market. He knew interest rates real well. So he bought a financial instrument that he felt was very safe. He paid $2,000 for it, and he showed me that in 18 years, his son would have enough money to pay for his freshman year of college, books, tuition, expenses, and so forth. And by the 19th year, his sophomore year would be paid off. By the 20th year, his third year would be paid off. And by the 21st year, his remaining college would be paid off. So here's a guy with $2,000. He was able to finance his child's education for 4 years. Now, you obviously know it costs a lot more money to go to college for 4 years if you wait till the last minute. Or it costs a lot more than $2,000 to go to trade school for 4 years if you wait till the last minute. And unfortunately, a lot of people do wait till the last minute, and they have to take out bank loans just to pay that off. But if you think ahead, it's a lot more affordable. If you think ahead, it's a lot more manageable. If you fail to plan, you plan to fail. And a good goal would be to invest in your children, in your family. Now, you can be creative with this. Another example is a coworker of mine. He was a heavy smoker, and he knew it was a problem. And he knew it was costing his health, but he especially lamented how much money it was costing him. But unfortunately, he just didn't have the motivation to give it up. Well, one time he came to work, and he was kind of real sad. He said his daughter, I think she was 10 or 12 years old, she had a real aptitude for art, and she was trying to develop her talent. And she came to him, I think, earlier that week and asked him to buy her some new supplies, pens, pencils, papers, and so forth. And she even asked him to send her to art school so she can develop her expertise. And he looked into it, and he saw it was going to cost a few $100s a month. And it broke his heart because he didn't have a few extra $100s a month. He didn't have that room for his budget. So I asked him, I said, how much does a pack of cigarettes cost? And he told me. I said, how many packs do you smoke a day? And he told me. And we cranked out the numbers, and if he would have stopped smoking that day, he would have easily had enough money to fund his daughter's art education. And so here's an example. If that doesn't give you motivation to stop smoking, I don't know what will. But a good man leaves an inheritance to his children's children. It's a great idea to finance or to fund for your kids' future. Now, honey, what are we doing for our kids for their future?
We are buying them land. We're gonna be revealing that in the future in this channel to show you our investment portfolio and everything that we're doing to invest and stuff. But the main thing that we do is we get them land so that they can have a place to stay, especially with a lot of uncertainties going on in the world.
And land or real estate is a very stable investment, and we'll roll out the idea, but our goal is for each one of our children to have their own land. And then as we get money, to build on that land, to give them homes. And our desire is by the age of 18 that they're going to have a house on their land, so that when they get married, they can raise a family on their land, so for their children as well. So we're trying to leave an inheritance to our children's children by giving them land, giving them homes, and so forth. Number 4, pay off your credit card. Now, we live in a credit-based society. I'm not saying credit cards are evil, but you definitely would be wise to pay off that credit card. And the problem with credit cards is they have interest rates, high interest rates, and those interest rates can overwhelm you. After our $1 million debt with the healthcare, with the first pregnancy, we had other healthcare issues as well, and they piled up. And when I lost my job abruptly, and we had no safety net for us, we immediately had to turn to the credit card, and those expenses hurt us. I mean, it is not good. I mean, we would work to our bone to help pay that credit card debt off, and at the end of the month, that interest payment would hit, and it was almost overwhelming. I didn't tell you, but I cranked out the numbers, and if we would continue the route that we were on before I got the second job, I think it would have taken us 106 years to pay off that credit card debt. That can be suffocating. And so we had a fight to get out of that. We followed a systematic plan to get out of it, and we'll reveal that plan on how to get out of credit card debt in another video.
Tune up for that.
We got out. And isn't it a great burden lifted off of us.
Oh man, seeing that zero number on the credit card debt is one of the best feelings ever. And make sure, by the way, if you are new, to subscribe, because we're going to be showing you our journey to financial freedom, guys. It's good to know that we are not in any credit card debt. That debt for us, I don't know about other people, but it was very overwhelming. One day I even cried, just asking God, are we going to be in this burden for long? Because I know that according to the Bible is that if you are free, you will lend. But if you are in bondage, you will be borrowing. So I said to God, are we doing something wrong that we're in this bondage where we are owing all the time and we have to pay and not be free? But finally we're able to be free. So make sure you subscribe. And if you like this video so far, give this video a thumbs up, because we are in with this and hopefully to help someone out there to live their financial freedom life. If
you get nothing else out of this video, just try to... Hopefully you'll get this. Get out of credit card debt. Now, the reason why this isn't number one is it takes a mindset. Number one, you have to have the mindset that you want to be a blessing to society and not a burden. You have to have the mindset that you're going to pay your own bills. You have to have the mindset that you're going to protect your family. You have to have the mindset that you're going to invest in your family. And I think when you have that philosophy or that mindset, then it just follows that you're going to pay off your credit card, and it just makes it a lot easier. Number 5 is to set up an emergency savings fund. Now the Bible says, cast thy bread upon the waters, for thou shalt find it after many days. Cast thy bread upon the waters, and thou shalt find it after many days. What does that even mean? Okay. Now, if you have a loaf of bread and you do nothing but just keep it and eat it, it's probably only going to last a few days. You're probably going to finish in a couple days, or it's going to rot. But if you take a portion of it and cast into the waters, that water will help preserve it for a while. And those currents will bring it back to you. Cast thy bread upon the waters, for thou shalt find it after many days. So the Bible seems to be advocating saving, if that bread represents money or economic wealth, it seems to be advocating saving part of your wealth or saving part of your money so you can have it at a later day. And what's after that? Cast thy bread upon the waters, for thou shalt find it after many days. Give a portion to 7, or also to 8. For thou knowest not what evil shall be upon the earth. So definitely the Bible says you should be saving up.
Especially now with this COVID.
Yeah, especially now. So you're saving up for that evil that might come along your way. So the big question is, how much should you save up? Traditional financial planning will teach you should have like 12 months saved up. That's a lot of money. And that's going to help weather your storm, a lot of storms. And that would have helped a lot of people in 2020 if they would have 12 months of expenses saved up. Now, obviously, that's a lot of money, and that's not something you can just do right away. But it's good to have a goal.
That's our plan
to start chipping away. But sadly, the Bible seems to warn we should have a little more than 1 year's worth saved up. Cast thy bread upon the waters, for thou shalt find it after many days. Give a portion to 7, or also to 8, for thou knowest not what evil should be upon the earth. My impression is that the Bible might be saying you should have 7 or 8 years saved up, because you never know what evil should be upon the earth. Now, my wife and I, we just read the book of Genesis, and we came across that in the book of Genesis, at the beginning of the Bible, there was a time of 7 years of great dearth. Or 7 years of great famine. And those people who could not handle that, they fell under the authority of Pharaoh, king of Egypt. They were in bondage to Pharaoh, king of Egypt.
That's a good
and
one.
When a wicked king rose up in Egypt, it was bad news for those people. The Bible seems to be telling us at the last days something very similar is going to happen. In the book of Revelation, now I'm not an expert on end times prophecy, but my understanding is in the book of Revelation, there seems to be, it's going to be 7 years of great financial dearth for the whole world. And those people who cannot weather that storm financially, it looks like they're going to come under the authority of the Antichrist, and that's not going to be a good thing. So cast thy bread upon the waters, for thou shalt find it after many days. Give a portion to 7, or also to 8, for thou knowest not what evil shall be upon the earth. So the Bible really seems to be warning us we need to start saving our money for emergency funds. And obviously 7 or 8 years is a lot of money, But it's great to have that goal. If you fail to plan, you plan to fail. And a great goal would be to start that off and start chiseling away at
Let's do this.
Okay, so my wife has a great idea. How are we doing that? How are we saving up for possible evils that are coming down? Just briefly.
Okay. Firstly, we have like that society thing that I'm going to be talking about in the future videos. So make sure you're subscribed. What else are we doing?
Yeah, that's what I want to highlight. My wife has a very creative way to save money, and it's like a community-based saving where you kind of cut out the banks. You kind of bypass the banks, and you have to do with people you trust, relatives, close friends, and so forth.
Yeah.
It's a great way to save money and to help each other to avoid high debt expenses and so forth. But we'll reveal that to you in another video. But I think that's what we're doing. We're trying to save up for future, for future needs.
Yeah.
Number 6, the last one, invest in yourself. A lot of people save up their money so they can live a life of luxury when they retire. A lot of people save their money so they can live a life of service when they retire. And some people don't save up at all because they figure they're just going to work till the day they die. Now, I think a good lesson to learn from 2020 is having a job till the day you die might not always be available. Having a job in 2020 seemed to be a privilege and not really an opportunity. And if I'm even close to being right about those 7 years of tribulation at the end of the world, that there might be a time where it's going to be very difficult for people to work at all. So it's good to invest in yourself, invest in your retirement, so you can weather the storm, or you can either live a life of luxury if you want, or you can live a life of service if you want. Now, years ago, I was talking to a young man. Actually, he was 35 years old, and he just became religious, and he was like really excited. And he said, when I retire, I want to go out and do a bunch of missionary activities. I think he was a baker. He said how much money he made, and he was starting to save up. So when he hit 55, he was going to go out and do great exploits for the Lord and so forth. So just the basics on retirement is you kind of pick how much money you want and at what age you're going to achieve that, and you work your way backwards. And maybe we'll have some videos that talk about it in general. But again,
subscribe.
If you fail to plan, you plan to fail. And a great source of planning, or the first step of planning, is to have that goal. So we should have a goal of investing for our entire retirement, saving for our retirement.
Also, I have a YouTube channel. So in my channel, we lived in a very small apartment. So I used to have a lot of comments saying, why don't you move to a bigger house and stuff? In my mind was like, we cannot at that time afford a bigger house. Why should we get into debt? And my husband was like, no, you need to think wise. Don't listen to anyone. So there's a mentality that people need to live in a bigger house, even if it means getting into bondage. We don't see it that way. We would rather live in a smaller house, pay small, and then work ourselves up higher. So that's why we live a simple life. We don't want to live above our means. So I think that's a very good point, because you need to live on your means. If you cannot afford something, don't do it to please others. But in reality, do it for your own self, for your own freedom. There's nothing greater than having a financial freedom, guys. Like, there's nothing that feels good, because you are not in bondage to anyone. And in this world right now, with COVID and everything, there's a lot of uncertainties. People are freaking out. Like, even if you look in the financial stock market, people don't know. I mean, a lot of people, some people are investing in stock because they believe that, well, the economy is gonna boom. But other people are freaking out like, oh, we don't have a clear path of what's going on. So if you have invested in yourself and you've done that, you know for sure that, you know what, you're free. So I just wanted to add that.
Yeah, you know for sure you have a certain amount of money at a certain age, and you can do what you want with that money. But it's good to have that goal. Now, let me conclude with this. Setting goals can be very powerful. One day when I was in college now, I was walking through the halls of my fraternity, and I was walking through a hall, and I heard this chanting over and over. This guy was saying the same thing. And I recognized that the door was slightly open, and it was my friend, and he strongly desired to be a dentist one day, but he was struggling with organic chemistry. I think he got a D on his midterm. And he was chanting over and over and over. And when I got to his room, I looked in and I could see on his wall were his goals posted. And he was standing in front of his wall and he was chanting these goals. He said something like, I will graduate from college. I will go to dental school. I will be a dentist. I will get a B- in organic chemistry. And he said that over and over and over. I will graduate from college. I will go to dental school. I will be a dentist. I will get a B- in organic chemistry. You know, if we fail to plan, we plan to fail. And the first step of planning is to set goals. A great goal for 2021 might be to be a blessing to society and not a burden. Another great goal would be to protect your family. Another great goal would be to invest in your family. Another great goal, super goal, would be to pay off your credit card. Another great, a great goal would be to establish an emergency savings fund. And the final goal would be to invest in yourself, to invest in your retirement.
So guys, I hope you enjoyed that. As you guys hear, this is the man of finance. As for me, I'm just following him. I love those guys. They were really good. They're also speaking to us because we have plans. And it's January right now, 2020. Let's say you're going to find this video in 2021. Oh, 2020 is gone. Let's say you find this video in February. Start small things. Even if you are saving $50 a month, even if you are paying that $50 in your credit card, it adds up. It took us a year pretty much to finish off our credit card, but when we were studying, I felt like it was forever. But my husband is kind of that person that calms me down. I'm the one that freaks out, and then he calms me down. No, we'll finish it. And then today we are free. Speak of free, guys, I'm happy. We are at our happiest point. Yes, our lives are free. You don't see us driving. What is that car that I told you about? Tesla. You don't see us driving our Tesla. You don't. That's a big one car that is like everyone in the stock market, whatever they are buying, Tesla. So we don't see us driving Tesla. But you know what is great? We are free from debt. And oh, honey, it's woke up. The baby. Okay. My baby woke up. So I hope you guys subscribe, like, and do all those good things. You'll see us more for sure, Lord willing, of course. And I'm excited for the video about credit card. We don't know when it's gonna come up, so make sure that to subscribe and do all those things. And now this work is awake. Perfect timing. And you want to add something, my lovey?
Instead of investing in Tesla, we got this.
Yeah. Instead of investing in Tesla, we got this. Okay. Yeah. So guys, bye bye. Take care.